Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode on the challenges and triumph of online teaching during COVID-19 at the Female Educators Roundtable with your host, Debby Enoe, and another of my guests from around the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for coming online. I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about, you actually teaching or training online and what the challenges were. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us what country you come from and the group of students you teach or adults you teach?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Debbie. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to reconnect with you again. My name is Roelien Piron. I live in the Netherlands. I am from the Netherlands, but I run an international business. I train teachers, trainers, coaches, and managers from all across the world. We used to do this face to face, but we transitioned into online training. A big part of the trainings that we did was already online, but now it's even more. I think the COVID period is a very interesting period, not only for us as business owners, but it transitions a lot of things in the world. Actually, the organization that we have is that we help people deal with the stress that comes with change. We help people to adapt to change, and also create creative solutions. Now, this has never been more relevant than the past couple of months. But I must say, although we are experts in stress management and change, we also had to adapt and we also had to cope with the stress that comes with change.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even though you teach it, you still have to deal with it, and you also have to find a way of, marrying both of them, which is, interesting. Thank you for that. Right, we're looking at what some of the challenges were. It doesn't matter if you're in terms of when we look at education, education could be an academic education or education could be a practical education. What we are looking at is some of the challenges that individual experience when they had to teach online, whether or not you're teaching primary school, secondary school, all years, or you're teaching adults. We all had to find a way of teaching whatever we used to do in the physical classroom to now on the online platform. And there had been a number of challenges. So in terms of the challenges, what was it like for you? I know you do adult. What was it like for you in terms of engaging these adults? Bearing in mind, some of them are so, mindset in terms of using the physical classroom, and now you have to bring them to the online classroom. What was that like in terms of the change that connect with that, in terms of them actually doing it? What was it like?
Yeah. Well, I think so. Our program, it's called Optimal Performance Leader Program. This is where we teach teachers and coaches and trainers, and that program has always been online. We also had online coaching calls. We did have a train the trainer day last year, which was really nice, where people would meet, but the core was online. So that transition was not too difficult for us. What was difficult was that the people that we train were delivering face-to-face sessions, 6-week sessions or group trainings in corporates. Now, all of a sudden, that was not possible anymore, and it was not allowed anymore. In some countries, such as Portugal and Spain, people could not even leave the house. And I was on a call with these people to help them make a transition, because they were my clients, they were using my methods, and I could not simply say, too bad for you guys, we have an online program and you just deliver nothing, because that would also mean the end of my business. I cannot deliver a method that is supposed to deliver face to face. So it was kind of a crisis call internally. We didn't communicate it as a crisis call, but for me, it felt as a crisis call. And we said, dear optimal performance leaders, we're going to organize a call. It was the first week of the lockdown in the Netherlands. And we said, let's come on the call. usually we tell you guys what to do because we have trained hundreds of different people, we have the experience, and we give you some sort of a manual to do the way we did it and the way we tested it in the past 4 years, 4.5. Now I said, everybody think we can do it. I think we have to be creative here, but now it's different because I'm not the only creative person, because that's where we're not going to manage it. We need the community, and we need you all to think creatively and out of the box. Now, this is extremely difficult in times of crisis because we all look for safety. We all are people that, if we experience stress, it's a lot harder to be creative and come up with out of the box solutions. But I said, I need you guys because this is something that we need to do. Because usually, when you deliver trainings, you use a proven method, but this is testing. So, all together, we're going to test what works, we're going to communicate it with each other, and we're going to learn from each other. And then we took it day by day. Actually, I said, I have a challenge for you. Think about people that you can coach online or train online. And then we also worked on marketing and positioning. And I said, especially because people had to look for a new target group or sometimes a new niche. Because if you do business workshops, yeah, you can do it online, but it is a little bit different. So some people came up very creative solutions, and they said, I'm going to help parents who have to homeschool their children. Or they said, we had someone else that said, I'm going to train athletes that don't have a goal anymore because it's so part of their identity. But if it leaves, then they will might be in an identity crisis, and they might also have too much energy. So I'm going to coach these people. So all these people found new target groups. And then we said, okay, let's think how you can deliver our method, because our method usually uses sports and physical training to create experiences, and usually you do that with a coach. But we said, okay, so think about how you can give these people some exercises so they can still be physically active, they still have the experiences, but then you do the reflections online. um, and I think it was super overwhelming to create a completely new training program, but because we did it step by step, all together, inspiring each other, we managed within a week to find a new way of helping people. And then we just tested it, and then, interestingly enough, the people that joined more recent actually did the best job in transitioning to online coaching, because they were not used to the face-to-face trainings. So what was interesting in the months before or the weeks before was that the newer people were learning from the experienced people, but then all of a sudden the experienced people started learning from the newer people, because the newer people had been working on the transition and creating an online program to deliver with their clients. Um, so I was, and that also helped my business in a very positive way, because I've always wanted to create a community where everybody has good ideas, where everybody can share, where everybody can learn. And I think before Corona, it was usually the people that asked me as the founder of the organization, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to do this? But because we had to be so creative all together and collaborate, it really formed a good connection of collaboration. And yeah, it really connected the group of people that we have in our program. Um, so yeah, never waste a good crisis, I would say.
It's interesting though, because my other question to you was, how did you form the community online? But as you say, you all came together, and as a result of coming together and exchanging ideas, the community actually formed itself, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the community got closer, uh, and but yeah, I think that's when you get closer also to your family and friends, when you really need each other. And I mean, this COVID has such an impact on the world, and it has such an impact on people's lives and people's businesses. But one of the more positive aspects is that people connected again. And people ask each other, can I do groceries for you? Can I help you? Are you all
mm,
right? You know, it's
mm,
values
mm,
that were not common in modern society anymore. And all of a sudden, my
mm,
friends and family members started sending text messages saying, "Hey, Berlin, how do you feel? How is your health?" And I was thinking, why don't we do that always? Why don't we just always
mm,
call our mom or text her and ask her, how are you? How is your health? Um,
mm, mm,
and um,
mm,
and personally, I also connected more with my loved ones in that period because I don't know, we needed each other even more, I guess.
mm. So, in terms of all negative experience, we should actually find the opportunity in it and explore the opportunity. And this is what COVID have actually done. Because in terms of opportunities, actually given educators and trainers the opportunity to use the online platform, which
Yeah,
were not being used. So now that we've all have a new skill as educators or trainers to actually start delivering packages on a much global scale than we
yeah,
used to, because as you
yeah,
say, you had some of them, you were still they were doing still doing face to face, but now they have been forced to use the online platform. So
yeah,
from the negative experiences come the opportunity, which we need to seize the opportunity and maximize that opportunity.
yes,
And we
yeah,
need to, because there is no way the physical classroom would ever be the same again, because we've learned too many skills to be letting it
yeah,
go to waste.
yes. But I think the crisis situation forces innovation. We have
Yes.
to. We simply have to. And
Yeah.
it all makes sense. I mean, if you're in your comfort zone, things are going well, why would you get out of your comfort zone and change things?
Yeah.
um, and this pushed us all. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there there are also people that didn't make it, or businesses that didn't make it, and these people have to find new careers, or it has not been easy to everyone. And it also has
Mm-hmm.
not been easy to our business, and we had also moments that we didn't know how to survive, because we also lost business clients, and we also had clients that couldn't pay their bills anymore. So I would not say that it was all fun and great
Mm-mm.
and happy innovation. But I also, I mean, it's what I teach the students in our program, and I also have to teach it myself once in a while. It's you can complain when there's a crisis situation, you can freeze, you can wait, you cannot do anything, but it is the time to step it up and show what you stand for, innovate, and come out stronger.
Mm-hmm. It is very true, because, as you say, this COVID, as much as there were a few negative, there had been a lot of negative, etc. They're also positive because it forced educators and trainers to be creative and innovative, because they have to
Yes.
think out, because you mentioned earlier on that you had to say to some of your students that they need to think outside of the box. And only,
Yeah.
when you start thinking outside of the box and getting out of your comfort zone, there lies the treasures. The treasures are not in our comfort zone. Only when you step out, you actually see and find the treasures. And that's what this whole thing have actually done, because, as you know, in terms of you actually teaching, etc., it meant that you needed to find a new way of delivering.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's
And
interesting because it applies to education, but it applies to so many other different fields in business or in life. But yeah, I'm in that. I'm happy because I think a lot of people used to think that online education is just the something that is not working as well as face to face. And
mm,
I have always said that are huge benefits with online education. And especially if it's pre-recorded, because we do a lot of things also pre-recorded, and we have people from Australia to Canada, which means
mm,
that you can study at your own pace, that you can also adjust it to your own learning style. You can do it as fast as you want. We also we answer every question within 48 hours, so you never have the situation where you have to wait until the next class, or that the teacher says, okay, 5 more questions and then we go home. And um, uh, people can, some people really, they go all through the program and then they go back, and other people just go step by step, and it's very different way of learning, very different learning style. Some people like to listen, other people like to read. So I see a lot of advantages of online training. And I think before, people, at least in our country, in the Netherlands, which is a small country, people thought that online can never be as effective as face to face. But I think right now we've also seen the benefits. Also, the universities has seen the benefits. It will also might reduce travel time, travel costs. Hopefully, that also have an effect on pollution as well. And what I do think is that the personal connection is always important. Whether you give online training or in a classroom, the personal connection, telling people that they matter, showing them that you really care, showing that you really help, that is always important. But honestly, when I was in class at high school, I also had moments that I was in class, but I had the feeling that I was excluded and people didn't care about me. So it's not a guarantee that if you are in a classroom that you are taken care of. It's yeah.
It is so very true, because especially online, what online have done for a number of educators is allow students to differentiate their style of learning. Because when we were in the
Yes.
physical classroom, as much as we differentiated and took the individual learner's needs into consideration, we were not able to support every individual learner's needs. However, on the online platform, that is so very different, because the online platform, the learners as well as the online, is actually forcing us as trainers, as educators, to differentiate even greater according to the learner needs. So in terms of which you clearly identified just now, in terms of the learning style, each learner now are learning according to the identified preferred style of learning, and that could only be a good thing.
Yeah. 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 And what we did is we launched in July. So we launched the program in July, and the newer program. We already had another program. We used, and it's now September, but we already changed a few modules based on the feedback that we got from our clients that said, "Oh, I don't understand what you mean there." So we changed it. So it's super easy to change. Whereas what I sometimes see in schools or in university, they lay out the program for 1 or 2 years, and the evaluation will take place after the year, and then they might change it. um, um, and and I understand, because you cannot change the curriculum for 20 teachers and brief them again that they have to do things differently. But in an online program, you just change it once, and then 100 people benefit from it.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. It's very, very true. That's another aspect I did not even look at. Yeah, it's very true, because in terms of, when you actually deliver to your learners and they say, well, that didn't work, you are able to quickly change it, so they're able to identify it is able to meet their specific needs. And that is what the online platform, I believe, have actually done very, very, very well. It enables individual with different learning style to learn according to their learning style. They were not forced to learn according to everyone else's learning style, because as we know, in the
Yes.
physical classroom, that is so challenging that you have a group of 15, 20, 31, how many, learners you've got. And you tend to use one size fit the majority. Whereas on the online platform, it is individual because they are all finding their individual and preferred learning style. So that even make it even better for them in terms of the greater outcome of, the results we're likely to get. So that is another factor as well. When it comes to engagement, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. No, well, I just wanted to say that Mind 5 is based on the principles that we bring everyone to optimal performance level, but it's their own individual optimal performance level. So it doesn't mean that if that good or bad doesn't really matter. For us, it's about giving enough challenge that people get out of the comfort zone and grow, but not too much so that they won't get into anxiety mode. And I think some people take 4 months, some people take 1.5 years to continue to follow the program, but it doesn't matter. It's about challenging them just enough so that they will all have a success experience. And what I have experienced in classrooms is that if you teach according to the majority or the middle, then the people that cannot keep up with it, they don't have success experiences because they might not understand. But also the people that are a little bit ahead or quicker learners, they also don't have success experiences because they get disengaged. And that's what I like about delivering this program online, combined with individual coaching and combined with group coaching, so that we can also meet individual needs. But people can do it at their own pace, and we make sure that even if somebody goes really quick or goes really in depth, and we have the feeling that they can do more or that they can be challenged more, we would even challenge this person more. And that's so rewarding as a teacher or an instructor, that you have all the people that, or not, well, almost all the people that say, I have success, I feel successful, I use my unique talents, and there's no competition in who's quicker or better or smarter.
That is very true, because what it does is force individuals to measure themselves against themselves. So,
Yes, that's it.
which is a good thing, instead of measuring themselves against someone else, because, in terms of individual learners, we all have different learning style. We all learn at different pace. And the sad thing about it is that is what the classroom forces students to do. It forces competition instead of allowing individual to enjoy where they're at and embrace what they're doing, instead of feeling that they constantly have to be rushing to compete with someone else, instead of looking at where they are. This is something I say to my students all the time. I do not want you to compete with anybody. I want you to compete with yourself. Because when you start competing with everybody else, it could also be very demotivating, because when you realize that this person is so far ahead of you and you cannot catch up with them because your ability and your learning style is so very different, it leads to disengagement. It leads to lose attention. It could also lead to behavior issue. So that's one of the reasons I constantly say to my students or my learners that you need to compete with you, because the minute you start copying someone else, it means that it is no longer you. And that's always an issue. So it is so true, because on the online platform, they're working according to their individual needs, according to their learning styles. And it's interesting because a number of educators have said that the online platform did two things. It makes some students excel beyond their imagination, and it makes some of them actually, remain where they are. It depends on how individual students engage in the setup. In terms of engagement, what did you find in terms of, learners' engagements? How was that?
Well, I mean, it differs. And what we always say is, um, some people are very engaged and they show up every week and they ask questions and they also interact in our Facebook group. And then there are also some people that you never hear of. Um, so every other week they get an email if they have not been in the platform to check how they're doing. And sometimes I call them up to ask them how they are doing. And then sometimes you notice that some people, especially the more introverted people, say, "Oh, but I've been doing the course," and we can also see it at the back end. But they're just, I didn't feel like sharing it. And especially people from Asian cultures, they are actually very, very, they are studying and they are following the program, but you don't really see them interact or engage, which is fine. And I think that is for me was also a big lesson because I thought when people didn't interact that they might not be interested or they might not like the program or that I did something wrong. But
Mhm.
I just realized that also with my face-to-face workshops, sometimes there are these people that are just a little bit more quiet, a little bit more introvert, that don't ask too many questions, but still get a lot of out of it. Um,
Mhm.
and then I also thought back about the moments that I have been a student and that I was in classroom and that people were disengaged. Now, only the star teachers, they will help these people become engaged and ask the questions. But usually, most of the teachers will focus only on the people that are already engaged because it's much more of a reward to engage with people that
Mhm.
engage with your content or what you say.
Mhm.
Um, so what I learned here is that it's a little bit more difficult online because you don't see the people.
Mhm.
You know, you don't meet them, you don't have them in your class. But also, if
Mhm.
you have them in class, you still need to make the connection with people, ask them what it is that they need, and make them
Mhm.
feel that they matter.
Mhm.
And that's what we also do with our online program.
Mhm.
And I don't know if probably the situation is same in your country, but I know in the Netherlands that a percentage of the children that were homeschooled never returned back to school
Mhm.
because the teachers couldn't connect with the children or couldn't connect with the parents anymore.
Mhm.
That is a challenge and that is a risk. And
Mhm.
you know, if you would ask me about difficulties about online training, that is a risk. I think you have to not only interact with the people that show up every week or every day send you an email, but also
Mhm.
try to interact with the people that you haven't heard for a while from.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very, very true. That's very, very true because you don't know what's going on with them. There could
No.
be so many things going on with them that they cannot reach out for whatever reason. And as educators and trainers, we need to reach out to them, things
Mm.
like that. Okay,
Yeah.
in terms of confidence, how do you see it, how are you able to measure the confidence in the physical classroom and on the online platform, both in terms of confidence in using the online platform and confidence in the material they've been given, how confident they are in order to execute the information?
Yeah. Well, that is um, a hard question because I don't have written proof or anything. Uh, I don't know. The only thing I know is that our our business, our methods have always been based on experiential learning. So even if they learn online, we tell them to start experiencing. So, for example, with the coaches, they might learn something about change, and they might learn something about stress, and they might learn how stress worked with people.
Mhm.
And then before we move on to the energy management chapter, we advise them to already start working with people and already implement it. So, for example, if these people are teachers, we say now consciously monitor your students about how much stress they perceive, or take a look at their stress signals, or monitor them when they have a test or an exam, for example.
Mhm.
um, so that is what we
Mhm.
have always done. And that of course is a little bit easier
Mhm.
in online training because what you can do is we give a video of 10 minutes we tell you to do something,
Mhm.
then you start doing, you should implement it,
Mhm.
and you go to the next chapter once you have created an experience or a reflection. Now, the way I went to school was that I had 7 or 8 hours of school, and then I had it for 6 years, and then I could maybe implement something in my life. I think it's a different way of learning that we have always used. So it's difficult to say whether the benefits are from online or from face to face. I just
Mhm.
really like the experiential learning aspect in everything that I do.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. It is important though because it means that they could actually experience it in real time, eh?
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know, so.
and interestingly enough, usually we have to create experiences to ask people how they cope with stress. Now,
Mhm.
during the corona crisis, we didn't have to because everybody had an
Yes.
example. Everybody was experiencing some sort of
Yes.
stress.
Yeah.
Um, so that made the experiential learning even easier, but that was
Yeah.
just a side effect.
Yeah, it is. It is true, isn't it? So, which means that instead of asking them in terms of the experience, you then have to ask them, as you rightly say, in terms of what's the side effects, how are you dealing with, what are the physical symptoms that you're experiencing, because they're experiencing it in real time. So they could
Yeah.
say to you, they could tell you in real time what the experiences are. That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think that was also interesting when we had the conversations with business, because we're now starting to work for business to business again, also delivering online, by the way, because now they have experienced it. I asked them, what is your experience in times of change? And they said we had to change the whole way of working. All our workers had to work within 1.5 meter distance, and these were people that were working on the highways. um, and so their manager really understood what the stress that comes with change means, and what innovation means, and why it's so important, because they had experienced it in the past couple of months.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because when you're actually talking about change, that is also a major factor that actually affect individual mental health issue
Yes.
because the ability to transition onto the online classroom, those are some of the areas a lot of educators and trainers are going through the process of inability to cope and deal with the mental health because the transition onto the online platform and having now to be innovative and creative is causing a lot of problem within the mental health because change, as we know, is a catalyst of contributing factor to mental health issue because
Yeah.
as individuals, as human beings, we are used to habits and we thrive on doing things in a habitual fashion. We are creatures of habits, and the minute that changes come the increase in our instability of mental health. So that is so interesting in terms of how we are managing, how we manage change. And that's something as trainers and educators, we need to think about how are we going to manage that if and when we go back into the physical classroom, because there would
Yeah.
be a number of major issues in terms of transition.
Yeah. I think it's the feeling of losing control, or
Yes.
we spoke about getting out of the comfort zone. If you get out of the comfort zone all the time and nothing is familiar, and you will lose control. And
Yeah.
I mean, online, no, but many teachers didn't choose to go online. It just had to happen. And then they
Mhm.
also had things in their private life going on, and there were a lot of things that changed at the same time. um, but I mean, I've also trained a lot of teachers, actually, that were recovering from burnout, not in this program but in the past, in a stress management program. And I noticed that these people, the reason that they got burned out because they had the feeling that they lost control over not only the teaching but different aspects in their life. And that's why we always say we push people out of their comfort zone, or we try to help people be enough in control that they will still cope with it, but at the same time also grow. Now, sometimes there's unforeseen change, so that's a little bit more difficult to control. But then within the unforeseen change, you can still find beacons that will help you be in control. And I think that's why the connection with other people is even more important, because those people are some of your beacons.
Mm, 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 mm. Thank you. The interesting thing about all of that, I keep saying on every session, educators are control obsessed. We are so control obsessed. By that I mean, when we are in our physical classroom, we have full control of our physical classroom. We know where everything is. We know where to find everything. We are in control of it. We are even in control, we think, of the students or the learners. But when we actually come online, the learners are telling us that, hey, you're not in control, we are in control, because they decided how they want to learn the program we are implementing. So it's, and as a result of that, for some educators, it have actually thrown them completely off their comfort zone, because they're so used to having the control of even the students they think they have control of, that things are beginning to fall apart. And I'm saying to them, it is not falling apart. It's a matter of negotiating it in a different format. So it's
yeah. I tell you a story. It's when I started this business. I mean, I used to work in the sports industry, in sports sponsoring. So it was. I mean, I've been a ski instructor and I've been a sports coach, but I'm not in education, but it was my passion. That's why I choose for this. But I think some of the first trainings that I gave, I had this feeling of losing control too, especially when I had psychologists, physical therapists, and teachers in my program, because I was so scared that they would know it better than me, and I had the perception that I needed to be in control and that I had to need to know everything. But then I realized, if I have a physical therapist in my program that knows a lot about bodily awareness, I just ask the physical therapist, hey, did I tell everything, or do you want to add something? And the same happened with educational experts. They came to me and they provided me feedback. And we changed. I mean, we are very much in control, but the reason that we are in control is because we also give control to the people in our program. We tell them, we are an ambitious organization and we want to challenge the discourse of learning. We want to innovate in education and I cannot do it myself, but with the community of all the people, we value your feedback. So if you need something, and that makes that I'm still in control, because the only thing that I need to do as a business owner is structure all this creativity and these creative vibes, and tell the people, we hear you, we value your feedback, and we bring it together to a next level. But if I would be a person that pretends to be smarter than all the people in my program, no chances. I would have lost it. And I think that's sometimes maybe a bit of a self-esteem thing, that as a teacher or as a trainer, you don't need to know everything, and if your students bring up something very clever or smart, that's even greater. Not all the ideas have to come from you.
Yes, I totally agree with you there. And that is something I constantly stress on this platform to educators, because the minute you feel that you need to learn everything and you need to know everything, it becomes a problem, because there is no way anyone would know everything in whatever subjects you do. as long as you're
Yes.
willing to own up to not knowing, I think that we are not giving students and learners enough credit. Because the minute you own up to them that you don't know, you will be surprised as to how much support they give you. You are
Mm.
giving them direction, but at the same time, you say to them, I don't know this. Should we find out, or do you have the answer? And one of the
Yeah.
worst things that educators can do, and I keep on saying all the time, the minute you keep on feeling and letting people think that you have all the answers, they are always going to treat you as if you're a super person and you know all the answer. For me, I put my hand up and I say to students, I really do not know the answer. Let's find out, and we discuss it in the next session. When students ask me to spell certain words, if I don't know how to spell it, I also say to them, hold on, I am not your dictionary. Go and find the dictionary. I do not walk
Yes.
wrong with a whole encyclopedia in my head or a whole dictionary in my head. I'm an educator, but I am not super. Not everything I know. And then you have students who say to you, but miss, you are the teacher. An ex-teacher, knows it. Why don't you? I'm a human being. I'm a human being first and then an educator. Yes, I
Yeah.
need to know my subject well, but at the same time, I do not know everything about my subject. And I put my hand up. That doesn't make me an incompetent teacher. It makes me
No.
a human being who is capable of making mistakes. And I think that is where
Yeah.
educators, one could say go wrong or set themselves up. I am not setting myself up at all. If one of my students feel that, oh, miss, you're the teacher, you're supposed to know all the answer. No, I am not supposed to know all the answer. I'm supposed to know some of it, but some of it we are going to find together. Because my
Yeah.
role as an educator is empower you to find solution and
Yes.
scaffold you so that when you fall, I could direct you where to get the resources from. That's my role. My role is not
Abs-
to put everything into you because I don't have all the answers myself. And I feel that
yeah.
as long as educators start understanding that, embracing that, life is going to be so much better. And in terms of the stress level, it would be less.
Yeah. Yeah. It I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. That's it. And it doesn't even matter what you know, because it matters is what how you will help your students getting
Yeah,
to get the answers, and not only the answers but to apply the knowledge that you
yeah, yeah,
facilitate.
yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, you could have all the answers, but how are you making your student feel? The most major factor is how are you going to make them feel? And for me as an educator, people could say I'm lazy, that's their business. Me as an educator, my role is to empower my student. I need to make you feel valued. And I need to make you feel that you know. And I need to make you have self-worth and self-esteem. That is my role as an educator. How am I making my learners feel? That's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And that's
You
something
know,
we
it's
need to. Yeah, sorry.
yeah. No, no, sorry. No, it's actually one of the questions in our program. It's think back, visualize your most memorable teacher, trainer, or coach, and write down what this person did to you, or what this person did in general. And it is always the same answer. It's this teacher cared about me and really helped me to achieve my goals and saw what I needed. This
Mhm,
teacher
mhm,
helped me in a different way than that he or she helped the other students, because she knew what I needed. That's with all the
mhm,
more than 100 people that we have in this program. They have all answered something similar. It's about caring
mhm,
and understanding what someone needs.
mhm. And you give them what they need. in how you do that is how are you as an educator making your learner and your student feel. That is so very important to me, how I make my student feel. It is not how much of the work, how much of the knowledge I could pump into you, but how do I make you feel as a learner and a student. That is so very important to me, because that is what my student would remember. How did you make them feel? And that's how that's what I remember as a student when I was growing up. How did some of my lectures made me feel? And that is important. That has a much more lasting impact upon the learner and the student than anything else has.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, we also have a lot of clients that need to get some help with their limiting beliefs because they are influenced in the other way, because there were teachers that didn't make them feel valuable. And
Right.
there's no criticism to anyone, or I don't have anyone in mind at the moment, but it's a system that we have created in the past where we thought that that was the way to do it, to punish people or make people feel miserable if they made mistakes. And we need to change the whole system again, because no one is going to find their unique talents and excel if they are afraid to make mistakes. And if we still think about punishment that we get, or we've been fooled or set in a corner because we didn't have the answer, we need to be freer in our mind in order to change things, to try things. And that's the only way we can start thinking out of the box. Because if if you only do things that will work, then you will do the things that are inside your comfort zone. The things outside of the comfort zone have a higher risk of not working out well. But that's what we are so afraid of, because we have learned as kids that it's not okay to make mistakes.
That is so very, very, very true. That's why I say to students all the time in my class, I want you to be confident individual and I want you to speak. It doesn't matter the answer you give me, it is wrong. That is fine. My goal in my lessons is to empower students to speak, to communicate, and to feel comfortable when they do that. Mistakes are fine. We learn from our mistakes, and from mistakes, it makes you more determined and it actually help you to develop. I welcome mistakes in my lesson because I want my students to speak. And you're so right, because a lot of them are not going to say anything because they're waiting until they have the right answer. And it's quite sad because they've always been told that, you've got it wrong in a negative way. We need to it is so interesting though, because when you look at it in terms of what do we want our students to have, and you brought up limiting belief, and that is what education unfortunately have done. It did that to me in a big major way. I had major limiting belief when I left school. I actually start chopping that down when I actually went to university. And when I actually, move on, I found an educator who believed in me, who allowed me to make all the mistakes, possible. And those are the reason why we have those limiting beliefs, because we've always been told in order to progress, you have to get it right the first time. And unfortunately, it is not only educators does that, parents also do that as well. And parents is doing that because it stemmed down from what they actually were taught. And as a result, they too then limit the child. I give this example all the time. When my children actually, I do not like going on the fun fairs. My background is psychology. So before I actually started using my psychology in a big way, when they actually go on on this work, I'm saying, I don't think you should go because, but it was me projecting my fear. And my son, who is stubborn as hell, try everything, would say to me, no, mom, I want to go on. And I'm standing there cringing, thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want him to see me. So over the years, I've actually got to the stage where I no longer project my limiting belief onto them. If I don't like it, I quietly tell myself, well, I really so afraid, I don't want to see it, I'm going to move on. So even now when we actually go to Fun Fair or we go to Tom Park or any of those places, and he would want to go to the highest, ride. And I'm thinking, okay, go ahead. But I'm thinking my heart is going dum dum because my heart is racing because those are my limited beliefs and those are my fears. But I'm also aware that I cannot project it onto him because if I do that, I would limit him in terms of him actually exploring, going up on the tallest fun fair or the tallest ride. But I know those are my beliefs. And I know those are my limiting beliefs because of my own fears and my projection. So those are the things in terms of parents and educators do not allow students to make mistakes and explore outside of that because of their own limited beliefs and because of their own projection. However, we cannot even blame them for that because how they have been programmed and conditioned. So we have to have this is a whole different program to deprogram people so that they actually start allowing others to explore outside of their comfort zone and stop them from remaining into the comfort zone because we are creatures of habits.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's so true. And this is also what we realized during the past years of research that we did with people, helping people, coaching people. And it's so, you can offer all the tools, you can offer all the equipment, you can teach them things. But then at those moments where they face stress or crisis situations, they have this inner voice that is talking to them, and these limiting beliefs, and maybe it comes from their parents or their teachers or whatever experience it was, and then it's not going to happen. So if we want to have our students to get results, we can give them all the theory and everything, but we also need to work on those limiting beliefs. And ironically is I cannot tell you, yeah, Debbie, just work on your limiting beliefs, or that's not true, or I can tell you 100 times that something is not true, but it's not about me telling you, it's about you believing it. And
Yeah,
that's why the
exactly.
self-reflection is so important, and that's why we also make contact with the unconscious mind, where we help people to really also reflect and also identify whether something is intuition, feeling, or if it's a limiting beliefs that enables them or disables them to do something or take the next step. Um, Now, unfortunately, with children, this is a little bit more difficult, because I think with parents, you can explain and you can say, well, this is just someone who's projecting your fears on you. But with children, of course, as a teacher, you cannot say, oh, don't think like that. It's just your mom projecting your fears. That's a little bit tricky. And I think
I know. It's like walking on
in
the parent. We need to walk on the parent first so they can actually
yes,
realize that they're projecting those feelings onto the children.
yeah,
It's interesting though because you see all those limiting belief becomes reality for these people. It is their
yeah,
reality. Although they would see sometimes that this makes no sense because it's like initially the one time my sister was afraid of spiders. And I'm saying to her, okay, I could understand if it's a poisonous spider. This spider is a web spider. How could you be afraid of this spider? It's unrealistic. It makes no sense here. What would this spider do to you? And then realize that the fear is deeper than just the spider.
yeah,
So it's interesting. It really is interesting in terms of the limiting belief that we actually carry around with us, which then becomes our reality. And it's difficult to shake off because it's been program and reprogram and program and reprogram.
yeah. but fortunately, we can also create empowering beliefs. So that's the
Yes.
positive side about it.
Yes.
Uh, and I think it's
Yes.
I
Yes.
when I got to understand how this works and how this principle works, I just had to quit my corporate job and just it felt like my mission. I was like, whoa, if everybody who works with people understands these tricks and they're not even that hard to implement, then we can change complete
Mm,
systems and complete cultures. So that's actually my
mm,
mission as a my personal mission, of course, and also my business mission, is to help
mm,
to
mm.
break these systems by changing limiting beliefs, helping people to innovate and
Yeah.
think more out of the box.
Yeah, it is very, very true. It's so very true because that is what some educators have had, and in terms of going onto the online platform, that have actually been a major factor that have actually, brought on all the anxiety that I'm getting from the educators. They're, private messaging me and, all of that in terms of the anxiety which they're actually facing. And it's for them, it's a real thing. It's real. It's real. Okay, what three, anything else you want to say to us before I actually ask you for your tips?
No, I'm just really enjoying this conversation with you, Debbie. It's very interesting. So thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you. Before you leave, three tips that you are going to say to anybody who is now going onto the online platform for the first time. What three tips would you give them?
Um, don't be scared to change or try. Or
Mm,
I would even phrase it differently. I would say embrace change and try and
mm,
experience. Um, just do it, because our online first online experience wasn't great either, and
mm,
we just changed so many things. And I think that would be my second tip: is get collaborate with the people that you create content for, or collaborate with the people that you teach.
mm,
Find interaction, um, s- get their feedback, and with the feedback you can improve. And
mm,
sometimes feedback might hurt because people say, I felt disengaged, or I didn't understand it. And then for me, sometimes too, it hurts a little bit in the stomach. But then the second moment, I'm like, oh, but this is an opportunity, I can make it better. And so that's
mm,
my second tip. um and then I
mm.
guess you want to have a third tip, right?
Yes, ask him for three.
I think the third one would be, um, take care of yourself, and um, allow yourself time to release and recover from the things that you do, so that you have headspace to reflect on the things that you do. um, and that's the best way to deal with the stress that comes with change, but also the best way to create headspace and be innovative again. So take care of yourself, be mild to yourself, don't be too harsh, don't strive too much. um, you're enough. Do it, try it. That will be my third tip.
Mm. Thank you. That actually take me to, the situation in terms of educators and trainers, etc. You need to remember that, as you rightly say, you need to stop being so hard on yourself because you did not know anything on the online platform and you taught yourself, and you guys have done well. So you need to embrace it and realize that you are enough, whatever you are doing, because you cannot do more than be enough, right? And secondly, you also have to say, okay, you also have to remind yourself you could only do your best. And your best also means that you are enough. So you need to embrace that. And you need to switch off all the chatter and all the negative that educators and trainers are getting out there, that, you guys are coward, you don't want to go back, all the negative. You need to switch that off. You need to embrace where you are. You educators out there, you've done a damn good job. Ignore the chatter. Because remember, you didn't have a clue, and you actually launched the platform and you've actually used it to teach. You only did not only have to teach your student, you had to teach yourself. And in some cases, you have to teach parents. So stop being hard on yourself and take care of yourself and remind yourself of your value and your self-worth. I cannot stress that enough. Educators out there, some of you are going back onto the online platform for the second time. Stop stressing. Stop saying that, you don't know what you're going to do. You know what to do. Stop going to the doctors for medication because you're stressed or because that, in terms of your mental health. You need to embrace that. Medication is not the answer. I've had too many educators are going back on medication because they're stressed and they've taken on what people have been saying, that they're not, they don't want to teach, they're not good enough. People will always say that to us. But you also need to remember, in everybody's life, there have been an educator, whether or not it is positive or negative. So, whether or not they want to accept it that they had an educator, yes, you all did have an educator in your life. So you guys need to stop being so hard on educators. We're doing a good job. So, you guys need to stop it. Remember, we are not mourning. We are just putting it out there as it is and what it is. Because too often when we say something, people say, oh, you guys are only mourning. We're not mourning. We are annoyed because you all are not seeing our value and our worth. And you guys are not embracing that. In your life, you also had an educator. So you need to acknowledge that and be grateful instead of slamming us and criticizing us and want to really attack us. Remember, that's not mourning, we're just saying it as it is. Have you got anything else to say before I say goodbye to my people?
Well, I just that something that relates to this. If I had a magic stick and I could change something about politics, I think one of the things would also be to reward educators better. Not only in terms of salary, but also in recognition and creating innovation in education. Because I think exactly, a lot of people don't realize that everybody has had an educator, and that educators have play such an important role in the belief systems of people, and it's such an important job. And unfortunately, I see a lot of good people leave because the job is too stressful. So I would love to improve the system of education, not only in my case where I educate adults, but also for younger people. So yeah, definitely, we definitely stay in touch, Debbie, because I think we're on a similar mission. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope that the people in were inspired by this interview.
Yes. Thank you very much, Facebook people. Can you please like, comment, and share? Because, we are bringing to you some of the challenges of educators. It is not an easy job as everybody seems to think. Everybody feel that they could all be educators. Really? Come and do the job we do. Spend a day in my classroom. Yes. And I'm sure after you spend a day in my classroom or online with me, your views are going to be changing. A lot of parents feel because they were supporting the children online, they were educated. No, sorry, love. You were not an educator. You were just supporting your child online. You were just helping your child as you would normally do. Online, in terms of homeschooling has a lot more and involve a lot more than people sending you the work to give your child. You have to create everything yourself, and you have to create the experience yourself. Whereas, you were sent work, the teacher sent work, which they actually planned already, so speak to people who are actually doing homeschooling, and they'll tell you what you did was not homeschooling, was just supporting your child. Thank you, everybody. Remember, we are not mourning, we're just putting out there because we do feel that it is unfair to educators when you guys are slamming us, attacking us, telling us we're not good enough. I'm okay. Because you know what, coming from a psychological Black background, I'm okay with that because I know I'm good enough and I know I'm enough. But sadly, some educators out there embrace the negative and they actually take it on, and it makes some of them ill. Right? So you guys need to ease up a bit. Come on. Thank you very much, everybody. It is not mourning, it's just putting it out there as it is. Good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. Take care. Thank you very much, guys. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with another educator from around the world. Bye-bye.